The signal. The stars looked different from Helios Station. Ilara Chen had noted this during her first week on the remote outpost, and 6 months later, she still found herself staring into the void during her off hours. The frontier colony orbited a nameless brown dwarf at the very edge of human expansion, monitoring deep space and collecting data on potential habitable worlds. Tonight, something about the darkness between the stars unsettled her. Still stargazing, Ilara. Dr. Kazuo Yamamoto appeared beside her at the observation deck, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced viewport. As the station's chief xenobiologist, he spent most of his time analyzing soil samples from nearby moons rather than looking at stars. "Something feels wrong tonight," she replied, tracking a faint shimmer of light that shouldn't have been there. "Like we're being watched." Kazuo laughed softly. "Frontier paranoia. Happens to everyone eventually." But Ilara wasn't convinced. As communications specialist, she'd been picking up strange signal fragmentation for weeks. Brief pulses that disrupted the quantum network connecting Helios to other frontier stations. Protocol dictated she report anything unusual, but the station commander had dismissed her concerns as equipment degradation. "I'm going to run another diagnostic on the QEC," she said, pushing away from the viewport. "At 200 hours, get some sleep, Chen. Whatever it is will still be there in the morning." She forced a smile. "You know me, can't rest until I've checked every variable." The communications hub was deserted at this hour, bathed in the soft blue light of monitoring stations. Ilara slid into her chair, fingers dancing across the holographic interface as she initiated another deep scan of the quantum entanglement communicator, humanity's instantaneous link across the vast distances of space. The scan showed nothing unusual, just as before. But as she was about to log off, a pattern caught her eye, a microsecond variation in the entanglement field that repeated every 93.6 seconds. Too precise to be random interference. She isolated the pattern, enhanced it, and felt her blood run cold as the computer translated it into a coherent signal. Coordinates of human frontier colonies, transmitted on a frequency not used by any known human technology. Someone, or something, was mapping human expansion. Ilara's finger hovered over the emergency alert when the station shuddered violently, throwing her from her chair. The lights flickered, then died, replaced by the harsh red glow of emergency systems. Proximity alert. Unidentified vessels approaching. The automated warning blared throughout the station as Ilara pulled herself up, her heart hammering against her ribs. The main view screen flickered to life, showing 3 massive ships of unfamiliar design. Sleek, predatory vessels with organic-looking protrusions that pulsed with purple energy. They were unlike anything in the human registry. "All personnel, this is Commander Reeves." The station commander's voice crackled over the comms. "We are facing an unknown contact situation. This is not a drill. Proceed to emergency stations immediately." Ilara ignored the evacuation order, her fingers working frantically to establish a direct quantum link to Earth Defense Command. If these were the same entities that had been mapping human colonies, Earth needed to know. Now, the station rocked again as the first volley of energy weapons struck the outer hull. Warning lights cascaded across her console as systems began failing throughout the station. "QEC failing," the system announced dispassionately. "Quantum entanglement destabilizing." "No, no, no," Ilara muttered, bypassing safety protocols to force the connection open. She had one chance to send a message before the communicator failed completely. The door to the communications hub burst open, and Commander Reeves staggered in, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. "Chen, we're evacuating. Those things are boarding." A flash of purple light engulfed him, and where the commander had stood was now nothing but a cloud of molecular ash. Ilara stared in horror as a figure stepped through the doorway, a tall, insectoid being with 4 arms and gleaming black carapace. Its compound eyes shifted, focusing on her with cold efficiency. In that moment, Ilara made her choice. She slammed her hand on the emergency protocol key, activating Helios Station's final defense, a quantum beacon designed to transmit not just data but precise spatial coordinates that could be used for an instant response. It was technology so new that most frontier stations hadn't even been equipped with it yet. Helios was one of the test sites. "Identity yourself," the creature demanded, its voice a disturbing harmony of clicking sounds processed through some kind of translator. Ilara stood tall despite her terror. Ilara Chin, Communications Specialist, Earth Defense Force. The creature tilted its head. Earth Defense Force. There was something like amusement in its modulated voice. "We have observed your kind for some time. You have no defenses that concern us." "Then you haven't been observing closely enough," Ilara replied, taking grim satisfaction as the console behind her flashed confirmation. The beacon had transmitted successfully. The creature stepped forward, raising a device that resembled a scepter. "Your species will make excellent resources for the Viridian Collective. This outpost is merely the beginning." "You've made a mistake," Ilara said, backing away. "Earth doesn't abandon its people." "Earth is 17 light-years distant," the creature replied. "By conventional travel, they would not receive your distress call for years. By then, there will be nothing left of this station but molecular components for our harvesting ships." Ilara smiled grimly. "Who said anything about conventional travel?" The creature's response was cut short as the station shuddered again, more violently this time. But this wasn't weapons fire. It came from within, as emergency systems initiated the station's self-destruct sequence that Ilara had activated along with the beacon. "What have you done?" The creature lunged forward, but Ilara was already diving for cover behind the reinforced communications array. "Ensured that you'll regret ever hearing the name Earth," she answered as the countdown reached 0. Admiral Marcus Hayes stood at the bridge viewport of the EDF Retribution, flagship of Earth's 7th Fleet. Few knew of the 7th's existence. It was a classified response force developed after the mysterious disappearance of 3 frontier colonies over the past decade. "Sir, quantum beacon activated at Helios Station," his communications officer reported, her voice tight with urgency. "Emergence signature detected. Unknown hostiles." The beacon transmitted for only 6 seconds before going offline. Hayes's weathered face remained impassive, but his eyes hardened. For years, he had warned the Defense Council that humanity wasn't alone in the galaxy, that the disappearances weren't accidents or natural disasters. Now he had proof. "Sound General Quarters. Deploy Starbridge in 3 minutes." "Sir," his XO stepped closer, speaking quietly. "Starbridge technology hasn't been fully tested for combat deployment. The risk. It's acceptable," Hayes finished firmly. "Helios Station has over 200 personnel. I won't leave them to die while we debate safety protocols." The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as officers relayed orders. Deep within the Retribution, the experimental Starbridge generator hummed to life. Humanity's greatest technological achievement, a device capable of creating temporary Einstein-Rosen bridges through space-time. "All ships report ready for Starbridge transit," the tactical officer announced. "Combat teams standing by." Hayes nodded grimly. "Initiate Starbridge sequence. Target: Helios Station coordinates." The space before the fleet seemed to ripple, then tear open like fabric, revealing a swirling tunnel of blue-white energy, a shortcut through the very fabric of space-time. "All ships, advance," Hayes commanded. "Let's show these hostiles what happens when you attack humanity." The Retribution plunged into the Starbridge, followed by 12 warships of Earth's most advanced design. The journey through folded space took mere seconds, compressing 17 light-years into a heartbeat. As they emerged near Helios Station, Hayes' blood ran cold. Where the station should have been was an expanding cloud of debris, surrounded by 3 alien vessels harvesting the fragments with energy beams. "Life signs," he demanded. "Scanning debris field," the sensor officer replied, then looked up with shock. Sir, I'm detecting one human life sign. Faint, but present. Appears to be in some kind of stasis field attached to the largest alien vessel. Ilara Chen. It had to be. Somehow she had survived to become a prisoner. And, in doing so, had given them the opportunity they needed. Target alien vessels, Hayes ordered, his voice cold as space itself. Weapons free. Show them what humanity does to those who harm our own. The alien ships began to turn, clearly surprised by the sudden appearance of Earth's fleet. But they were too slow. The first salvo from the Retribution's graviton cannons struck the smallest vessel, shearing through its shields and rupturing its hull. The other Earth ships joined the barrage, focusing their fire with ruthless precision. Hayes watched impassively as the aliens attempted to coordinate a response. Too late, they were realizing their mistake. They had attacked a seemingly isolated human outpost, never imagining that reinforcements could arrive instantly from 17 light-years away. Sir, the tactical officer called out, the largest alien vessel is powering up what appears to be a faster-than-light drive. Disable their engines, Hayes ordered. I want that ship intact. They have one of ours. The Retribution's targeting systems locked onto the alien flagship's propulsion systems, and a concentrated beam of energy severed the drive connections with surgical precision. Prepare boarding teams, Hayes said, standing straighter. I want to know who these creatures are, why they attacked our station, and how many more of them are out there. As the battle raged, Hayes couldn't help but feel a grim satisfaction. For years, humanity had expanded cautiously into the stars, always aware of their vulnerability, always fearing first contact might come as conflict rather than cooperation. Now that fear had become reality, but so had humanity's response. Whatever these aliens were, they were about to learn a harsh lesson. Earth protected its own, and the wrath of humanity, once provoked, was a terrible thing to behold. Message from the alien vessel, sir, the communications officer reported with surprise. They're surrendering. Hayes smiled thinly. Tell them it's too late for that. The time for talking was before they attacked our people. The Admiral turned to his XO. Prepare a message drone for Earth. Tell them we've made first contact, and that we've responded appropriately. As the Earth forces moved in to secure the disabled alien vessels, Hayes stared at the debris field that had once been Helios Station. This was just the beginning, he knew. The galaxy had become a much more dangerous place. But as these aliens were learning, humanity was more than capable of facing that danger and answering it with overwhelming force. Humanity unleashed. High Commander Krell of the Viridian Collective stood on the command deck of the harvester ship Inevitable Progression, his 4 arms clasped behind his back in the posture of contemplation. The human outpost had proven disappointingly simple to overwhelm, until everything had changed in an instant. Explain to me, he said quietly to Science Director Vex, how a primitive species managed to summon a battle fleet across 17 light-years in less time than it takes a nestling to hatch. Vex's antennae quivered with anxiety. The human female activated some kind of quantum beacon before initiating the station's self-destruction. Our analysis suggests it transmitted not just a distress signal, but precise spatial coordinates. Impossible. Krell's mandibles clicked in agitation. Our intelligence indicated humans have only rudimentary faster-than-light technology. Their colony ships take years to reach new systems. Evidently, Vex replied, they have been concealing their true capabilities. A tactical officer approached, his carapace bearing the fresh scars of combat. High Commander, the human vessels have disabled our propulsion systems. They are preparing boarding parties. Krell turned to the view screen, which showed the human warships arranged in a precise formation around his 3 harvester vessels. The smallest of the human ships had already disabled the relentless efficiency, while the methodical extraction was venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. What should have been a routine harvesting operation, one of dozens the collective had conducted on pre-spacefaring or newly spacefaring species across 3 sectors, had transformed into a tactical nightmare. "The Premier will not be pleased," Krell said, more to himself than to his officers. "Prepare defense teams at all boarding points, and bring me the human female. If anyone understands what we're facing, it's her." Ilara Chen drifted in and out of consciousness, aware only of the cold metal surface beneath her and the strange chittering sounds around her. Her last memory was of the insectoid creature advancing toward her as Helios Station began to tear itself apart. She hadn't expected to survive. The self-destruct sequence should have vaporized the station and everyone on it, including her. Yet here she was, alive, a prisoner of the very beings she had defied. A sharp pain in her arm brought her fully awake. One of the creatures was injecting her with something, a clear fluid that burned through her veins. "Neural stimulant," the creature explained, noticing her consciousness returning. "High Commander Krell wishes to speak with you while you still possess cognitive function." "How considerate," Ilara muttered, her mouth dry. "What happened to my station? My people?" "Molecular components, as promised," the creature replied dispassionately. "Though your self-destruction protocol was most inconvenient, it damaged many valuable resources." Grief and rage washed over Ilara in equal measure. 200 people, scientists, technicians, friends, reduced to molecular components for these monsters. "You'll regret this," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "Earth doesn't take kindly to having its people harvested." The creature was about to respond when an alarm blared through the chamber. The ship shuddered violently, throwing both Ilara and her captor against the wall. "What's happening?" she demanded, struggling to her feet. The creature ignored her, chittering rapidly into a communication device. Its compound eyes widened as it received a response. "Impossible," it muttered, before turning back to Ilara. "What have you done? How did your kind arrive so quickly?" A smile spread across Ilara's face despite the pain radiating through her body. "I told you, Earth protects its own." Another violent shudder rocked the ship, and this time Ilara recognized the distinctive sound of breaching charges. Earth Defense Force standard issue for boarding hostile vessels. "They're here," she said, satisfaction mixing with the lingering effects of whatever drug they'd given her. "And they don't look happy." Admiral Hayes led the first boarding team personally, a decision his security chief had vigorously opposed. But Hayes hadn't risen to command Earth's secret fleet by playing it safe. "Reach successful," reported Commander Diaz, his tactical officer. "We have access to 3 levels of the alien vessel." Hayes nodded, adjusting the settings on his pulse rifle. The boarding team, 20 elite soldiers in powered combat armor, formed up around him, their expressions grim behind polarized visors. "Remember," Hayes said, "primary objective is the recovery of any human survivors. Secondary objective is capture of alien leadership for intelligence gathering. Use lethal force only when necessary. I want prisoners to interrogate." The team moved through the alien ship's corridors with practiced precision. The architecture was unsettling. Organic curves blended with technological components in ways that suggested the vessel was partly grown rather than built. "Contact front." The point man dropped to one knee as 3 insectoid aliens rounded a corner, carrying weapons that pulsed with the same purple energy that had reduced Commander Reeves to atomic dust. Hayes raised a closed fist, halting the advance. "This is Admiral Marcus Hayes of the Earth Defense Force," he called out, his voice amplified by his suit's external speakers. "Surrender your weapons, and you will not be harmed." The aliens responded with a burst of energy fire that dissipated harmlessly against the advanced shields of the EDF combat suits. "I tried diplomacy," Hayes muttered, then nodded to his team. "Take them down. Non-lethal if possible." The engagement was brief and decisive. The aliens' technology, while advanced, was no match for the combat suits developed specifically for ship-to-ship boarding actions. Within seconds, all 3 aliens were unconscious, their weapons secured by EDF personnel. "Life signs ahead," reported the team's scanner operator. "One human, faint but stable. Approximately 30 meters, port side corridor." Hayes's heart quickened. Someone had survived, likely the person who had sent the quantum beacon signal. Move out. Secure that corridor. They encountered stiffer resistance as they approached the life sign. The aliens fought with increasing desperation, suggesting they understood the importance of their prisoner. After a brief but intense firefight, Hayes found himself outside what appeared to be a medical chamber. Inside, strapped to an examination table, was a young woman in the tattered remains of an EDF communications specialist uniform. "Admiral Hayes," she said as he entered, her voice weak but clear. "Ilara Chen, communications specialist, Helios Station, reporting the presence of hostile aliens." "Sir." Despite the gravity of the situation, Hayes couldn't help but smile at her formal report. "Noted, Specialist Chen. We received your beacon. Well done." As medics rushed forward to stabilize her, Chen grabbed Hayes's arm with surprising strength. "Sir, these things, they called themselves the Viridian Collective. They've been watching us, mapping our colonies. Helios wasn't their first target, just the first one where someone managed to send a warning." Hayes's expression darkened. "How many colonies have they hit?" "I don't know. But their leader, Krell, he talked about human resources they've already collected." "Sir, I think they've been harvesting frontier outposts for months, maybe years." The Admiral's jaw tightened. If these Viridians had been attacking human colonies without anyone knowing, the death toll could be in the thousands. "Get her to the retribution," he ordered the medics. "Full medical protocol." He turned to Dias. "Find me this Krell. Now." High Commander Krell knew defeat when he saw it. The human warriors moved through his ship with ruthless efficiency, their protective suits rendering the collective's weapons nearly useless. He had already received reports of humans boarding the other two harvester ships, the coordinated attack executed with a precision that rivaled the collective's own military protocols. Vex's compound eyes shifted nervously. "The Premier will hold you responsible for this failure." "The Premier," Krell replied coldly, "is 17,000 light-years away. My concern now is survival." He turned to the remaining bridge officers. "Initiate surrender protocols. I will face these humans myself." "Surrender?" Vex's antennae went rigid with shock. "The Collective does not surrender. The Collective has never faced an enemy like this." Krell gestured to the tactical display showing the overwhelming Earth fleet surrounding his disabled vessels. "These humans crossed 17 light-years instantly. They shrugged off our most powerful weapons, and they did it all to rescue a single outpost with minimal strategic value." He fixed Vex with all four of his eyes. "What does that tell you about their capabilities and their determination?" Before Vex could respond, the bridge doors exploded inward, and human soldiers poured through the opening, weapons trained on every Viridian present. A human male stepped forward, older than most, with silver at his temples and eyes that reminded Krell of the void between galaxies. "I am Admiral Marcus Hayes of the Earth Defense Force," the human said, his translator rendering his words in perfect Viridian. "Which one of you is Krell?" Krell stepped forward, all four arms raised in the Viridian gesture of capitulation. "I am High Commander Krell of the Viridian Collective Expeditionary Force." The human admiral approached until they stood face to face, or rather, face to mandibles. "You attacked a peaceful research station. You killed over 200 of my people. Why?" "Resources," Krell answered truthfully, seeing no point in deception. "Your species represents an optimal combination of biological and technological components. The Collective harvests such resources from pre-spacefaring or newly spacefaring species across the galaxy." Hayes's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes hardened further. "How many human colonies have you harvested before today?" Krell hesitated only momentarily. 23 outposts over the past 6 of your Earth years. Approximately 12,000 individuals processed for resource extraction." A deadly silence fell over the bridge. The human soldiers' grips tightened on their weapons, and even through his limited understanding of human expressions, Krell could see their desire to execute him on the spot. "You've been operating in our space for 6 years," Hayes said finally, his voice terrifyingly calm. "Attacking isolated colonies, murdering our people, and you thought we wouldn't notice, or couldn't respond. Your technology was assessed as primitive," Krell admitted. "Your faster-than-light capabilities were limited to conventional warp fields. The distance between your core worlds and frontier colonies made rapid response impossible." He gestured to the view screen showing the Earth fleet. "Evidently, our assessment was flawed." "Catastrophically," Hayes agreed. "What you encountered today is a fraction of Earth's defensive capability. We've developed technology specifically to protect our expansion into the galaxy. Technology we've kept hidden precisely because of threats like the Viridian Collective." Krell's inner eyelids flickered, the Viridian equivalent of surprise. "You concealed your true capabilities. Why?" For the first time, Hayes smiled, though there was no warmth in the expression, "so that when enemies revealed themselves, they would do so believing us weak and isolated. They would attack our outposts thinking themselves safe from reprisal." His smile faded. "They would be wrong." The Admiral turned to his officers. "Secure all Viridian personnel. Download their databases. I want to know every colony they've attacked, every human they've taken." He faced Krell again. "As for you, High Commander, you're about to become Earth's first official representative of the Viridian Collective. You're going to tell us everything about your people, your worlds, your military capabilities, your leadership." "And if I refuse?" Krell asked, though he already knew the answer. Hayes' expression remained impassive. "Then we'll find your homeworld anyway, and your people will learn what happens when you provoke humanity to its fullest extent." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "One distress signal. That's all it took to bring this fleet down on you. Imagine what we'll do for 12,000 murdered colonists." 3 months later, Ilara Chen stood beside Admiral Hayes on the observation deck of the newly constructed Helios I station. Through the viewport, they watched as Earth construction ships completed the defensive perimeter, a ring of automated weapon platforms that would ensure no one could attack this outpost again without facing immediate and overwhelming response. "The Starbridge network is 90% complete," Hayes informed her, studying a holographic display of human-controlled space. "Every colony, no matter how remote, now has quantum beacon technology and direct Starbridge access to Earth." Ilara nodded, absently touching the commendation medal on her uniform, awarded for her actions during the Viridian attack. "And the Collective. The diplomatic team has made progress with their leadership. The Premier claims to be horrified by the actions of Krell's expeditionary force." Hayes' tone made it clear what he thought of such protests. "Nevertheless, they've agreed to reparations and a non-aggression treaty." "They're afraid of us," Ilara observed. "As they should be." Hayes turned to face her fully. "What you did, Chen, activating that beacon despite knowing the station was about to self-destruct, it changed everything. Not just for Earth, but for the galaxy." Ilara looked out at the stars, remembering how different they had seemed from the original Helios station. They still looked different, but not because she felt isolated or vulnerable. Now they represented possibility and responsibility. "The Viridians aren't the only species out there harvesting others," she said quietly. "Krell's interrogation confirmed at least a dozen similar empires operating in our sector alone." Hayes nodded grimly. "Which is why your new assignment is so important." He handed her a data pad with her new orders: command of outreach vessel emissary, tasked with contacting other victimized species and offering Earth's protection and alliance. "We were lucky," Hayes continued. "We had the resources and technology to defend ourselves when the Viridians came. Many species don't. I think it's time humanity took on a new role in this galaxy. Protectors instead of victims," Ilara said, studying her orders with growing determination. "Exactly. The Viridians and others like them operated on the assumption that emerging spacefaring species would be easy targets, isolated, vulnerable, unable to defend themselves effectively. Hayes's weathered face broke into a rare smile. Let's prove them wrong, not just for ourselves, but for every species facing extinction at the hands of harvesters. As Ilara looked out at the stars once more, she felt a new emotion replacing the unease she had experienced before the attack. Purpose. Humanity had faced its first true galactic threat, and had not only survived but emerged stronger, more unified, more determined. The Viridians had made a fatal mistake in attacking Helios Station. They had assumed that distance would protect them from reprisal, that humanity's apparent technological limitations would make them easy prey. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, a species that, when properly motivated, could cross vast interstellar distances in seconds, could develop weapons that rendered alien technology obsolete, and could unite with a single-minded determination to protect their own. One distress signal. That was all it had taken to unleash Earth's full potential. And now, that potential would reshape the galaxy itself. Ilara Chen smiled as she accepted her new commission. The stars no longer looked different. They looked like home. And humanity would ensure they stayed that way, not just for themselves, but for all who needed protection in an often hostile universe. The era of harvester species preying on the vulnerable was coming to an end. The era of humanity as a galactic defender had just begun.